Thursday, October 29th.
Right. Calling to order the meeting of the Salem School Committee of October 20th, 2025. This meeting is taking place in person at 29 Highland Avenue, room 227. You can also join via Zoom using the link posted in the meeting agenda. Do we have members participating remotely? Not yet? All right, we're going to keep moving then. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Member Campbell, seconded by Member Cruz. All in favor? Any opposed? The matter is unanimous. Public comment. The Salem School Committee would like to hear from the public on issues that affect the district and are within the scope of the committee's responsibilities. Spanish interpretation is available for anyone who needs it. The members of the school committee would like to remind the public that Salem Public School students regularly attend school committee meetings. We encourage all meeting participants to model respectful and productive public discourse for our young learners. Public comment in the chambers. Seeing none. Public comment on Zoom. Please raise your hand. Nope. Seeing none. Next item is approval of the consent agenda, the minutes of the regular school committee meeting of October 6th, a field trip to Skills USA's State Leadership Conference in Marlborough, Massachusetts for high school students, November 23rd to the 24th, and approval of the warrants of October 2nd, October 9th, and October 16th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Member Campbell, seconded by Member Cruz. Under discussion. Seeing none.
There are members now.
Yeah, okay, I was trying to get through quickly. All right. Do we have both members online?
Just Member Manning.
Member Manning? Okay. Under discussion, seeing none, a roll call vote. Member Hoffman?
Yes.
Member Manning? Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The consent agenda is approved. Student representatives report. You doing that, Steve?
Yes. Sydney, unfortunately, had a family emergency, could not be here today, but she did email me her notes, which this has never happened to me, that I have a series of notes to read off. This is what Sydney wanted to share this evening. The student advisory is now meeting weekly with their advisor, which is great. They were struggling to find a weekly time. Student advisory is working on bringing in freshmen and more freshmen into the group because it was all the returning students are 10 through 12, and their focus is on a newcomer inclusivity project, which we talked about last time or previous meeting. She wanted everyone to know that the senior SAT is tomorrow. And that she also wanted, I think this is very significant, is that she is now a member of the Student Advisory Council for Early College. So there's a Salem representative on the Early College statewide student group. So Sydney's a member of that. CTE programs have been securing co-op positions for their seniors. Parent conferences are this Thursday from 2:40 to 3:40. And our last meeting, we had a long conversation with students about facilities again, gave us more feedback on facilities. We talked about food service, which is their favorite topic. And then we also got feedback from the student advisory about the elementary reconfiguration process, and we heard a lot about their elementary experiences and their recommendations for what we should be thinking about relative to what our consultants should be thinking about relative to the information they provide the school committee. So that concludes the student representative update.
We'll move right into your report.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Let's see. I did just want to start before we have a series of presentations here that are critical around the second round of MCAS, and we have two policies for consideration related to CTE and middle school exploration, and we have Principal Softek and Chelsea Banks here to talk about the work at Collins Middle School. The one thing I do want to just note to folks is that we are meeting with all school communities over the next 2 weeks, starting with tomorrow night at Saltonstall. Members of the school committee will be joining me to speak with parents about, or not just parents, but any community members. We've invited our staff to participate as well, to share a little bit about the process that we've undertaken, what that's going to look like what was the drivers behind the decision to explore elementary reconfiguration, and then give an opportunity for folks to ask questions, provide insight. We wanted to do that before November, the November 3rd meeting, so that we could have one round of engagement before then, because we know there'll be engagement after that as well. So I just want to note that we're sending out the Zoom links via the school. We didn't want to post them for fear of Zoom bombing out there, so we're not putting those out publicly, but we are sharing with all the school communities, and we look forward to those conversations. We know it's a busy time. The recommendation we got from PTOs and school principals was to do it over Zoom, so more families could be there, especially during the month of October, and also that staff would be able to participate as well. So those meetings are upcoming, starting tomorrow night at Saltonstall. There's also two sessions about the report card, the new jump rope grading program and platform we're using. There are some of the meetings are on the same night as some of the reconfiguration meetings, but we are running that presentation twice. So if there's a conflict, you can always attend the other one. So no one's going to be miss out on a reconfiguration meeting or a jump rope meeting. And we're also filming it. So if recording it. Filming sounds like, the 19th century film, 20th century. And so we will be recording it and posting it online for families that are not able to attend. We're going to start with our MCAS. Yes, go ahead. Sure.
So just to clarify, the jump rope is specific to grade the elementary grades through middle school and Salem Prep. So it's specific to how jump rope is being used, so not the Salem High School.
And Salem High School implemented jump rope last year, so families and students
And they're using it somewhat differently, so it just, the target audience is elementary, middle school, and Salem Prep.
Thank you for that clarification. We're going to move to the second half of our MCAS presentation. We shared with you the first half last meeting. We've also provided you with some of the comparison data that was requested at the last meeting in terms of subgroups and some comps that we thought were important to look at. And Kate, you may want to say something else about that. Do you want to add anything about that?
No, I sent a message to members earlier this morning that there's 26 gateway communities. We didn't do a comparison to all of them. We picked a subset of 4 districts that we thought were closer in size and demographics to Salem Public Schools, and did the comparison so you could see the relative disproportionality in comparison to other schools, school districts. And if there are other communities that you would like, we'd be happy to run those, but we thought that made the point. Yeah.
Okay. All set, Mark. All right, and I'm fortunate to be joined here by Andre Fonseca, our Director of Multilingual Learning, and Sonia Lowe again, our Executive Director of Academics. And we'll wait for this to load. There it is. Next slide, Mark. Okay, we're going to talk about attendance. We're going to first go with chronic absenteeism. So next slide, Mark. I will say this is a very exciting slide for me to talk about. One of the pieces of the accountability system is absenteeism, specifically chronic absenteeism. And as you know from the many years we've talked about this, is the percentage of students missing 10% or more of the enrolled days in a school year. So that's 18 days in a traditional school year. And you can see the decline that we've seen over the last 5 years, with a high of 34%, in the year after the pandemic, to 19.2% in the last year. That's a remarkable decrease. That's a 15% decrease over that period of time. And as I've said many times, this to me matters so much because it speaks to the work that our staff is doing to get kids engaged in schools. Something is happening that's more than just kids are getting sick less. It means that kids are more excited to come to school. There's something that's drawing them to school, particularly at the middle and high school level, because they can't always rely on their parent to get them. there, and we'll hear a little more from the middle school tonight. But the reality is that there's a level of engagement that we've seen in terms of the type of instruction that kids are getting, the types of programs we're offering, and we've got to continue to double down. I'm not like ready to throw a parade for 19%. You know, I'd love to see that closer to 15% or down closer to 10%. But it's a huge improvement, and it certainly, even if you look at pre-pandemic, the numbers were higher than 19%. And we're number 3 out of the gateway cities. Again, not the thing I want to celebrate, but we're not where other suburban school districts are, but we also face a number of challenges that our kids face challenges in terms of transportation, housing insecurity. All of that leads to challenges with kids getting to school, but we're definitely moving in the right direction. I commend the schools who are creating the conditions for that to happen. Next slide, please. Achievement obviously is correlated to attendance in school. It's no secret that, like, if you're not in school, it's going to be hard to perform. Achievement begins to significantly decline after 9 to 10 absences out of school. And then fewer kids meet or exceed expectations on MCAS. And most students who are chronically absent do end up in the not meeting expectations category. Just last week, I heard the Assistant Commissioner of Data and Accountability talk about for any student that's chronically absent, it represents a half of an achievement level decline in their performance. That's not a surprise, but it is, and that's not just Salem. Obviously, that's statewide, and the department has started to put front and center, like, there's no way kids are going to be at grade level if they're not in school every day. And again, to any teacher in the audience or anybody listening, you obviously know that that's true, and we all know that's true, but we have to continue to remind people. I have this conversation with parents in Salem all the time. It's not that we want to be mean. It's not that we want to be bad people, but we do know that the stakes are high when children aren't in school. Obviously, we don't want them when they're sick, but the stakes are high when the children cannot, are not with us, and that's why we ask that you do everything you can to get them to school every day, on time, all day long. So with that, I will pass it over to Kate.
Yep. Okay, so the remainder of the slides in this deck focus on grade 10. So students who took the MCAS last spring as grade 10 students, and it's a combination of students from Salem Prep, New Liberty, and Salem High School. So just as we did with the grade 3 to 8 results with this presentation that now centers on grade 10 students, and you can go to the next slide, please. We are starting at a high level by providing the committee with some comparisons about how grade 10 students did in comparison to grade 10 performance across the gateway cities. And just as a reminder, Salem is one of 26 gateway cities, so the smaller urban districts. In ELA, grade 10 students from our 3 high schools outperformed 23 of the remaining gateway students, and so only Attleboro and Quincy fared better. So this is a really powerful statement about the performance of our students in comparison to other students across the state. If you go to the next slide, things get even a little better with math. So Salem grade 10 students outperformed every gateway city except Quincy in terms of meeting and exceeding expectations. And the next slide is science, and they performed again, outperformed every gateway city except Quincy, and they were even with Malden. So that's really, I think, a powerful statement and meaningful statement about students' performance. So now for a deeper dive and a look under the hood, I'll turn things over to Sonia, who will take us through the next few slides.
Great, thanks, Kate. We can go to the next slide. Or does this work? Great. All right, so this is, again, reviewing some of that writing data that we shared at the last meeting. We're going to focus today on the grade 10 data, so you can see that only 22% of students in grade 10 were scoring 0 to 1 on the idea development metric on MCAS, and you can see that almost a quarter of students were receiving max points for that essay. So just to reiterate from last time, you can see that the data over time actually gets better as students move closer to high school and into high school. What you're looking at here is the ELA 10th grade, and this also includes New Liberty and the prep. So this is all of the high schools all combined. And so what you can see from the data is that there is very, very strong SGP in 10th grade ELA. So across the schools, it's a 66 average. And I also want to give a special shout out to New Liberty, who, while they have very few students, testing in ELA, I think they had approximately 15 students. Their SGP was in the 70s, which is outstanding. 66 is considered high growth. 72 is excellent. So that's New Liberty, and they're doing some great work over there. For ELA 10th grade, we did see a decrease in the number of students exceeding and a slight decrease in the number of students not meeting. So that's sort of, I guess, a net loss there, or keeping it even. But we do see those SGPs high, and that is what we want to see. You might wonder, like, how would there be decreases in the number of students meeting or exceeding? And that has to do with the scaled score. So even though the 66% is very high, that's showing like very strong growth in a school. If a student doesn't meet the threshold for switching categories, they're not necessarily going to change from, say, not meeting to meeting. And that's what the proficiency shows there. So happy to answer questions there. Math in 10th grade also had very strong SGP with 67. And again, you can see the number of students exceeding did dip slightly, and the number of students not meeting did increase somewhat. When we dig into the subgroup data, this again is a graph that you can read by color. So as a reminder for the committee and anyone tuning in at home, each color band represents members of the group and then non-members of the group. So you can see, for example, low income is represented in blue. So low income students are represented in that top bar, and that shows their the percentage of students meeting or exceeding. And then the blue bar below is non-members of that group, so students who are not considered low income, and their proficiency in terms of meeting or exceeding. What we see in the subgroup data at the high school level is that we see really, really strong growth for subgroups in grade 10. So compared to the 3 through 8 data, this really is a bright spot for our district. And we really need to see numbers like these in order to close those achievement gaps over time. So we would want to see numbers like this across all of our grades in order to really start shrinking the disproportionality that we see represented here. So those are the ELA numbers. Take a moment there.
You hold on one second.
Please.
Member Campbell.
Sorry, just confirming, does this for ELA and math, I can understand why English learners would not have an SGP because of the sample size, but
Yeah.
does this indicate that 0% of English learners met or exceeded in both ELA and math? Since
Yes,
they don't
it does represent that, as well as also noting that you need 2 years worth of data in order to show that. So even where there were students with 2 years of data, none were meeting or exceeding. So that would include your intermediate students, et cetera. Yep. For math, we see a similar profile in terms of the subgroup data. So again, very high SGPs and significant disproportionality in terms of subgroup data. So despite the lower proficiency, subgroups did achieve high SGP there. Great. I'll turn it over to Andre to discuss the access results for K through 12.
That's great. Thank you. All right. So I'll briefly share out on our access results from 2025. So we can see here that Salem, marked over there by the red line, is currently outperforming the state by 4 percentage points. It continues to outperform gateway cities such as Boston, Chelsea, Everett, Peabody, and Framingham. And right now, Salem is in the top 5 performing districts of our gateway cities. When we take a look at grades 9 through 12 in particular, we see an interesting picture. We can say that grades 9 through 12 at Salem are in the middle of the pack. Salem 9 through 12 is performing only 1 percentage point below the state, and it's performing similar to cities like Boston and Lowell. Salem also outperforms other gateway cities like Chelsea, Fall River, Holyoke, and Lynn, but it's also outperformed by some other gateway cities like Everett, Haverhill, Malden, and Peabody. So again, Salem 9 through 12 is kind of in the middle of the gateway cities. This is the 5 years of progress that the Salem Public Schools have made. So for the past 5 years, Salem as a whole, which you can see represented by the solid blue line, has been matching or outperforming the state, which is represented by the dotted blue line. In grades K to 8 specifically, they echo this trend, which is represented by the solid orange line for Salem, which is currently outperforming the state and has been outperforming or matching the state for the past 5 years. Grades 9 through 12 in Salem have dipped below the state average in 2022 and 2024, but they've exceeded the state average, and this is for grades 9 through 12, in 2021, in 2023, and 2025, they were just 1 percentage point below the state average for grades 9 through 12. So in terms of some highlights and opportunities for us, one of our schools that is a huge highlight is the Horace Mann School. They are the highest performing school in terms of students meeting their Access proficiency benchmarks, with 67% of their students meeting their proficiency targets. In addition to 67% of students meeting their proficiency targets, 5 out of the 7 multilingual learners that are in a sub-separate program at the Horace Mann School are also making progress, and that's due in large part to their collaboration with Horace Mann special educators in sub-separate settings, which has been going on since 2023. Horace Mann continues to improve its access scores every year, as you can see by the middle graph. And now Collins is also another highlight for us. Collins is improving, and they're improving under target, but they're making significant growth. You can see that from 2024 to 2025, Collins Middle School made 11% growth, reaching this past year in 2025, 35% of their students meeting their proficiency targets. We also have some opportunities for growth. We know that grades 9 through 12, even though we've closed the gap and we're closer to the state with only 1 percentage point underneath it, we still have opportunities to grow even further. We can learn from our neighbors like Malden and Peabody and see what they're doing in grades 9 through 12 that's really advancing academic outcomes for our multilingual learners. Another thing that we can specifically do in grades 9 through 12 is investigate updates to our curriculum. We're currently investigating an upgrade to our curriculum called LIFT, which is part of our National Geographic suite of ELD curriculum that could further bolster student success in our ELD courses. And an important thing to remember is that we need to remain focused on ELD. We're not currently yet at 55%, and it's important to remember that the MCAS and the Access are separate tests that measure different things. The MCAS measures academic performance in specific content areas, whereas the Access measures English language proficiency across all content areas in 4 language domains. So while we might see a pattern of students who are not making progress on Access struggling on MCAS, there's no defined causation or correlation between MCAS and Access, since they're not assessing the same skills or knowledge for our students. And with that said, we recognize the need for equal preparation for both Access and MCAS for our students.
Great. There you go. Advance to the last slide, so I'll just bring things home. So we wanted to end the 2-part series of our MCAS presentation with some highlights on our instructional priorities that are being driven by the data. So first and foremost, we're staying the course with data informed instruction. And this is really a focus on using student work and assessment data to really understand what students know and need next from instruction, so that we are more responsive and targeted. In that same vein, we are working with teachers this year to be better ready to monitor learning during independent work, during daily lessons. And so we're sort of fine-tuning our work with teachers around how we prepare and plan for delivering instruction, with a focus on being ready to actively check student work in real time, and in the moment provide quick feedback that either helps clear up misconceptions during the lesson or give kids a thumbs up and encourage them to move on. So a little fine tuning around our planning processes. We've talked about writing, and we have a real concern here. The data is like telling us very loudly that we have to dig into writing across grade levels and content areas. On October 3rd, we already had a district-wide data meeting with all school leaders and coaching teams to dig more deeply into the writing data, looking at that disaggregated by school. We're working with each school to have them customize a writing plan for their school. They're submitting those to us. We'll provide some written feedback. And so we not only want to increase the amount that students are writing, but we really want to elevate expectations with real clear and shared criteria for what how we're evaluating student writing and making sure students are getting regular feedback that is specific and actionable to grow them as writers. So that's a big focus for us, as is this last item, which is a focus on early literacy. This is one of the superintendent's goals, as you know, and Salem is fortunate to be participating in the state's PRISM work, and that is the Partnership for Reading Success in Massachusetts. So we've received a grant, and we are partnering with the state and an implementation partner, the New Teacher Project, that is working with our leadership team to really focus on different aspects of our early literacy and what we are doing well and what we can improve. We've already started some high dosage tutoring, focusing on grade 1 through support from the state. And we just finished through TNTP helping us develop some asynchronous training modules for teachers that principals can use and customize for their schools that focus on the foundational reading skills and supporting all students to becoming confident and capable readers. So we really feel like this is the right set of priorities that will help us ensure that every classroom is a place where there's strong instruction that leads to stronger outcomes for students in the coming year. And that brings us to an end for MCAS.
Some questions, I think. Member Cornell?
I just have a question about something that you just mentioned, Kate. You said shared writing criteria, and you mean across the district because you brought the team in?
Settling on sort of like what are the rubrics that we're using for analyzing student writing. But
So
we did
district-
have a district meeting.
Right.
Sonia facilitated that with school leaders and coaches.
So those shared rubrics are district-wide, is what I'm asking?
Yes, do you want
So
to
it,
speak?
I
Yep.
get the question and the next question is, does that include Carleton because they're an innovation model? Like, is everybody kind of included in these same criteria?
Bentley was there.
Sonia's like, all right, I got it.
Yeah, I will say I'll plug for the jump rope webinar tomorrow. That's where the vertically aligned writing targets will live, and teachers will be able to score on a much more granular level of student writing than just the holistic standard. So it's a real nice shift, one that we're really excited about, and that is going to be happening grades 4 through 8, and then K through 3. They're writing smaller pieces. You don't have to be as granular.
Yes, and all 3 innovation schools were included.
Okay, thank you.
Member Campbell?
Yes, thank you. And apologies if you discussed this at the previous meeting that I couldn't attend, but I looked back through the slides and through the really helpful school committee packet that you had sent over as well. And it's related to my earlier question around English learners. I saw that it's always disaggregated at the level of English learner and non-English learner, which I think can be really helpful. But in terms of concern around disproportionality, sometimes that can be pretty typical of students acquiring English. And so I always find it helpful to see how our former English learners are performing as well. So you can kind of get a sense of like, is this like just part of the natural trajectory of acquiring English, or is there actually disproportionality to worry about? And so I think for me at least, and I don't know if you guys have looked at this yet, but I think it would be helpful to also see it's really frustrating, at least from like my practitioner lens, that they do lump L's and F's together. I understand why they do it, but they're such different categories. It's really hard to look at them all together. And so I would appreciate being able to see not L's and F's together necessarily, but also how F's are performing in MCAS at each of the grade levels, just to really see. Like I know, and I think for the public too, because I think sometimes to see a low percentage of English learners can look really concerning.
Yeah.
And it could be really concerning, but it could, again, also just be that natural acquisition of English language. So I think being able to show school committee members, but also like the public who might be concerned to see like once students have indeed acquired proficiency in English and are exiting program status, this is how they're performing on things like MCAS. It can kind of let everybody know whether there's like what is the work ahead and what are the concerns or no concerns perhaps.
Appreciate that, thank you, and we will dig into that going forward, and maybe we can come back to the committee with a few slides to talk about that a little more deeply.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just before we transition to the next, I do want to just call out Horace Mann. While it has struggled on some of the MCAS targets and their achievement, they are really leading the pack around their support of English language learners, multilingual learners, and that is not something to ignore. That is something, that is a critical. They're a place that we can learn from around the district, and I want to make sure they get the credit they deserve for the work that they've done with our MLs. They are a real shining light in that work and have been over the last few years. So there's something magical happening there in their work with MLs, and shout out to all the teachers who are a part of that work at Horace Mann. Want to shift to two presentations, well, one presentation, but around a similar topic. The state is requiring, and there's a memo in your packet, that we put forward two policies that are connected to CTE and career development, workforce development. The first is a middle school pathway exploration policy, exploration policy, which you have in your packet, and the middle school team will talk about that momentarily. But the department is requiring every district that sends middle schoolers to career technical high schools to develop a exploration policy that ensures that every child gets a chance to see what offerings exist. And in our case, that's Essex Tech and, most importantly, Salem High School as options for them. And so that's in your packet to be reviewed. And then we're not going to talk about it as much after the middle school presentation, but there is also, we've been asked by the state also, any district that has CTE programs to resubmit its admission, recruitment, and retention policies for high school CTE. That is also due by November 1st. Gratefully, we had done a lot of work on this, Mario and his team at Salem High School. So there's just minor tweaks that have been made. Our policy already really aligned with the state, but Mario will be available on Zoom if people have questions about that. I wasn't going to say much about it because there's not substantial changes to our policy, but we do need school committee approval of that as well. But to start, we're going to talk about middle school, and we have Principal Softic and Chelsea Banks, who leads our innovation work here and has no longer a pilot, but the work of the 8th grade and now all of Collins Middle School. And to share, I think, some really, really exciting data and promising data that after years of hard work by the team here is really bearing out that this investment of people's time, resources, and focus is benefiting kids. So with that, Principal Softic.
All right, thanks for having us. Good evening. So a couple things, we just want to kind of give it, like Dr. Schreck was talking about, give a brief update on the middle school CTE policy update, and just give a quick update about where we are as a Collins Middle School, and where we're headed in terms of, elevating our students and innovation at the same time. Right. So as Dr. Drake also, as he mentioned, the state said that every middle school needed to have a CTE policy as the changes in admissions at Essex Tech and other schools have evolved. And so fortunately for us, in terms of Collins Middle School, it hasn't changed too much in what we're doing differently. Over the last 2 years, we've put a lot of work into MyCap, which is DESE's My Career and Academic Planning Scope and Sequence, which elevates career-connected activities in SEL and for middle school students 6 through 8. And so over the last 2 years, we've been integrating those skills and those activities into our homerooms, so students have that experience. And at the same time, taking advantage of everything that Salem High School has to offer in their CT programs and really building more alignment with the high school. Regularly, and also connecting with Essex Tech. In terms of how this policy kind of changes us, really all it does is Essex Tech will now provide funding for buses for those activities when they are there. Previously, our students did need to travel over there and when they would visit. So it's just in terms of transportation is the biggest thing, including the tours, that changes for us. But in terms of our, MyCap work, a lot of it does rely on the VTrust funding, and we've been very fortunate to partner with them and to, learn from them and get that, as well as add a City Connects coordinator who's elevated that work, build those activities into that scope and sequence of my career and academic planning for our students. So, like I said, nothing's really changed too much over the last couple of years. It's a way to elevate and provide more opportunities for our students. Any questions regarding the CT policy? All right. So, this is my 3rd year at Collins Middle School. I know Ms. Banks has done a lot of work as well in terms of launching the pilot, and now we're at a great point in our middle school experience of how it's all coming together. So we always start with this vision of how we want our students to feel that sense of belonging through trusted relationships, authentic relationships, so they can identify skills and mindsets to empower themselves and to reach their full academic and life potential. And so the hardest part has been, starting and building the foundation. So a couple of years ago, we really worked on how to make the building safe, make sure students were heard, and get them engaged in the classroom, and building that strong foundation, that culture of learning as we start. But at this point now, we don't want just students in the seats. We want students in the seats to be not student-centered, but learner-driven. And we want them to really empower themselves to take on that the academic lift and ownership in their learning. So we always use a staircase, which is similar to the science of reading, I say, and then we started out being safe, but now we're at the point where our students are learning, and our data will show that shortly, but we want them to be empowered and really take ownership of their learning, and I think that's where all the magic works and that innovation work comes into play, and how we can connect personally and with our community, and expanding the middle school experience, not only in 8th grade, but in 6th and 7th grade too, and how we're taking shape into some mentoring opportunities. So learning from what's happened, through the pilot in 8th grade last year, and what really works and what is meaningful, and how to bring that to life in all grades and all students. All right, I don't know how to play this.
You can't. Steve's the or he doesn't want to.
Oh, we're not gonna play it.
No, I would just tell the school.
Oh, you're the
committee that
boss.
They can watch it at. You have the link.
We were told to keep it short.
All right. So, the proof is in the pudding, if you will. So like the students are growing, not only, social emotionally, which we knew was going to happen. We knew we were going to give them that opportunity, but really, to be an academic institution, students need to build skills. And you can see here in the data over the last 2 years, in terms of our accountability from last year to this year, grew 12%. I know Steve saw thunder last meeting, but we just wanted to reiterate and talk about how we also, hit 74% of our targets from 22-23 to today. In ELA proficiency grew 13%. SGPs were 58 overall, which we're very proud of, in all grade levels. So it wasn't just 8th grade or one grade level, one teacher. We saw this growth across all grade bands. Science proficiency grew 9%. Which exceeded our targets. And then in terms of, Dr. Drake was talking about chronic absenteeism. Over the last, 3 years, we saw a decrease in about 17% or 18% from 35% chronic absence to 17 over the last 3 years. Still a lot of work to go. We still want kids to be here, but we feel if they're empowered and they have that, they're learner driven, that's going to drive them to come to school every day. And then in terms of some of our other data points, 2-time students said they're more likely, said they are, most of the time they love school, which for a middle school student is amazing data, and we should be very proud of that. So not only students feel that sense of belonging, the data is starting to show that they're making that academic growth that we all want them to succeed, once they leave Collins Middle School and beyond. So just, over the last year, a lot has changed. We've been very fortunate to become one centralized middle school. The transition with Salem has been really great. Far exceeded my expectations in terms of the community, the staff that has come, not only the culture of the students, but the staff, and then the community at whole. We had the open house was a great experience, the potluck supper, so you can see that blend in that mesh, and it's been something that I think everyone has taken advantage of. It's also allowed us to be more flexible and maximize our schedule and provide more opportunity and more personalized learning to our students and getting creative and innovative with our schedule. Not that there aren't things that we can improve upon, but it's been an opportunity that we're taking advantage of. And then scaling the student experience is something that I talked about before. Last year, was really focused in going deeper in 8th grade, but, in 6th and 7th grade, we're now starting to bring some of that to life, especially with the mentoring. The pre-K and incoming 5th grade students will have a peer mentor at Collins Middle School. So not only building, someone they can look up to, but also creating that pipeline or that trust when coming into middle school. We know how hard that transition is from 5th to 6th grade. So, having that someone in the building and know what to look for is going to be a good opportunity. Except for in 7th grade, which we have always found to be the most challenging school year, that developmental year, the middle child, if you will. And we haven't put a lot of activities into 7th grade. It's the 6th grade transition. It's the 8th grade transition into 9th grade. But for 7th grade, having the ability to connect with younger peers has been huge, will be a huge asset to us, especially when they become 8th graders. Those 6th graders will have that, someone to look up to. And then piloting personalized learning in math and literacy. We're doing the personalized learning lab so students can progress monitor their own goals, set their own goals, and like I said before, really take ownership of their learning using some online platforms, but also providing feedback from teachers and monitoring their own growth on jump rope. In setting a trajectory that they're going to achieve at a high level. And so those are something that we've been able to add, not only as we grow deeper into innovation, but because of that transition with Salem and creating a bigger community, which has been a blessing. And so as we dive deeper, we're still fresh, right? We're two months in, so all the stuff that I talked about previously about providing more feedback and ownership to students, we've got to get better at that. We just kind of get our feet wet and found a foundation, but students need to build those skills, especially in 6th grade, where they are very dependent on getting feedback. But how do our 8th graders, how do they leverage their own learning and decide what they need to work on? So that's kind of the trajectory that we want to build in terms of continually improving and raising the rigor of students in our school. And going deeper in personalization and partnerships in our community. So kind of, again, taking the work of 8th grade last year in the pilot and how to really make it meaningful and integrate it into all grade levels every day. Not just the learning immersion in field-based learning, but really that powerful experience in our classrooms. Because in the classroom, that's where we are most of the time. So field-based learning is great, but how do we bring that into life into our classrooms as well?
To take the next steps in this, it also calls us to ask questions about the broader system. So we are now one middle school, one system for the middle school. And so we have the opportunity, thanks to our leadership, to really think about this and step back as we finish this year's strategic plan, as the last year of the superintendent's strategic plan, and think forward to next year and what's beyond. And broadening that scope, you see that kind of cone on the side to go not just in the tactical and strategic moves in the next 1 to 3 years or 2 to 5 years for tactics and strategy, but really thinking about that vision and goals of where do we want to be in 10 to 15 years. When our pre-K students who are here with us now are graduating, what do Salem Public Schools need to be offering to them to make them competitive, to make them have choice and opportunity when they leave our doors? To do that, that means that this strategic plan for the next 3 years needs to include the things that we need to be starting and doing. And so we have the invitation from the leadership to create the Strategic Innovation Advisory Committee. The forms are still out there from Dr. Zweig's communications. If you are interested, we have had interest, so we'll be selecting this week a diverse group of teachers and parents and community members, student and administrators, in order to come together to really learn and then design an engagement process around this broader vision for the next 10 years, with the idea that if we don't take proactive action, the world is changing so quickly that it will happen to us. And so we're excited to be in a place where we can be thinking about the trends that exist and how to anticipate and plan for those. Learning from the work that we have done with a pilot of how do you test something new and figure out if it works and then scale. How do you think about that as a system and as a district, and think about how we can learn and grow together so that we can control and improve in our future and address some of the systemic pieces that we were talking about in our data as well. How do we make sure that we're designing so that we have different outcomes down the road? So we're excited to be launching that process. It'll be a year-long process from October through June. We hope to have that plan in June. It'll probably be August. We know that. That'll have a 3-year strategic plan with what we're calling an innovation agenda. So how do we think about the next 10 to 15 years as part of that work? What needs to happen in the next 3 years, and where can it go? So we're really excited about that work.
All right. Thank you very much. Questions from the committee? Member Cruz.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the team at Collins for the presentation. It's wonderful to just kind of get the early updates on this. My request is we've had a couple of opportunities to visit when we were in pilot status. Now this is the middle school experience. I think with incoming new school committee members, it would be great to get something on the books. Maybe sometime in the winter to just invite folks in to really see how the progress went. I learned quite a bit when we had that larger visit with stakeholders with WPS. It was great to hear from both our veteran educators and then some of our newer educators about the ways in which the shifts were really transforming mindsets and accelerating student learning and interest in the classroom. I'd love to hear a lot more about how all of our educators are experiencing this year. So I think it would be great if we could organize a formal committee visit and or just invite stakeholders again for that kind of conversation. So any opportunity to do that, Superintendent, I think would be welcomed, because I do think what we have here is a model that's just really exciting, and most districts are a little bit behind us when it comes to middle school redesign. So I'm excited to see all the progress and just want to thank you all again for all the work that you do.
Thank you. You're welcome anytime. We can organize it too.
I get an invite every year, so it's great. I want to just share the love with the
And
rest
part
of the
of our
committee.
learning in a very real way has been that Representative Cruz and our other local representatives have invited the 8th grade to the State House every year as part of their civics education. And so that has been a very meaningful piece. We kicked off our civic action projects with Representative Cruz at the State House, which is a very cool way to learn.
And then the educators at Collins are not shy about inviting me to their classrooms, which has been great. So I got to go to Rick Burton's class last year, and that was also really cool. So just enjoy that that level of interest from educators is also there to showcase what they have going on in their classrooms. So I just encourage all my colleagues to just make the time for that too.
Member Cornell.
Just on that, I think one of the best things that I've seen since I've been on school committee is when you came with that first group of pilot kids and they explained how their experience in the classroom had changed and sort of the day-to-day. They were amazing. I would love to get that kind of update again from kids who aren't in that little bubble of pilot, but this is their everyday life. That was just a great experience for me as a school committee member to hear from them. So if we could make some time for kids who have now been kind of in it a little bit, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I just two things. One, I think it's really remarkable to see the changes in the middle school over the last few years. I can't I've been a part of a lot of turnarounds in my career. Some failed, some okay. This is probably the most impressive turnaround I've ever seen in the last few years, to see the change at Collins Middle School. And I said this to the staff last week when I spoke to them. It's a credit to all of them and to the leadership of Principal Softic, but the team here has done a remarkable job of turning a school around that was in the bottom 10% of schools in the district. And they just deserve a tremendous amount of credit. I obviously have a front seat to it every day, and it's obvious the changes that have made here. I also just want to say to the merger with Saltonstall, I was so heartened that in the meeting last week when I mentioned that the Saltonstall performance actually was quite good on the MCAS and the improvement. The Collins staff gave the teachers a huge round of applause as embracing their new members from Saltonstall. And I've just been very impressed to watch the Collins team embrace their colleagues from Saltonstall. They didn't have to do it. And it hasn't always been that way. And they've embraced I think the adults set the tone for kids, and they set an amazing tone here for this year in welcoming a group of almost 150 kids to their new school. And that's why we haven't heard anything negative. All I've heard is positives about the experience, but I commend the adults because kids feed off of the energy of the adults, and it's been really rewarding to see. The school doesn't feel any different to me. It feels like just what a middle school should feel like, just a lot of energy and a lot of vibe and a lot of cologne in the hallways. So a credit to everybody involved in here. That it's been pretty remarkable to see the transition. Thank you, Principal Softic.
Thank you both. Continuing with your report.
Okay, so I think Mario Sousa is on. Is that right, Glenn? And it might be good for him to just give you a quick synopsis of the changes in the policy, the CT policy. Mario, do you mind doing that for the committee?
I do not mind at all.
Okay, thank you.
And so the CT admissions policy was revised in order to strengthen the alignment between student interests, career pathways, and vocational program placement. While the admissions remains equitable and open to all, the program placement now includes a more thoughtful review of the student participation during exploratory. So essentially, looking at our previous policies, we had a very blanket admissions policy to CTE with a blind lottery, which is still the case for admissions, but we added the component for program-specific placement. So we accept everyone, and if there's an overcapacity on seats, it's a blind lottery. The only thing we added was for program placement. We wanted to make sure that there was some parameters to make sure that students got into the place that was aligned with their career interests. So we included MyCap into our rotations as well to make sure that at the end of our exploratory program, students were making educated decisions and being able to get into the programs that are aligned with their post-secondary education. So.
Okay. Thank you. So you're gonna later on in the agenda, you'll be asked to vote on the policies. Manny, I know you'll introduce that at that time. Okay, one more thing before I transition to Elizabeth, who has an operations update. I just want to thank Salem High School today. They welcomed almost 50 people there from the Barr Foundation to visit classrooms, talk with students, talk to staff. It was a very impressive showcase of everything that's good that's happening at Salem High School. But I know it's a major shift for students, for staff. And to welcome, I know there were scheduled changes as a result, but we're grateful that we were able to showcase and the team was able to showcase all the good work happening at Salem High School. Barr Foundation is like the leading investor or support for high schools in New England, and the fact that they chose Salem in October to visit says a lot about the good work that's happening there. So that concludes my comments for this evening. I know Assistant Superintendent Pauly has some updates. And then there's also a quick MSBA update as well.
Did you want to do the MSBA?
I guess I'll do the MSBA update that's in here. Mayor, I don't know if do you want to do that, or you want me to do that?
Yeah, I can take it. So we had our school building committee meeting and had additional introductions from the team from Shawmut and WT Rich, which is the joint partnership doing the construction management for the project. The design team presented some further developed designs around the schematic design. So we're getting more details around floor plan, treatments for exteriors, athletic fields, and working towards submission to the MSBA for the December 17th date for the next milestone and determination of project cost. There's been additional community outreach. Also, we were at Salem Rotary for a presentation since this committee last met. The Salem Public Schools Parents Advisory Committee meeting with Member Cornell and the superintendent. And then in November, we'll be presenting to the Downtown Neighborhood Association. And we've also had a request from the Salem Chamber of Commerce to do something at the Black Cat with their members to possibly come up and see the building and talk about the project. If you want to add anything.
No, I think that's pretty much it. The next meeting is November 6th, which is right here in the school committee chambers. And I think that's our update, my updates for tonight.
Great.
Assistant Superintendent Pauly.
Thank you. I have a few updates. The first is last week I mentioned that we were replacing the sound system at Bertram. I'm pleased to say that has happened, and there's been a training for staff, so we should have a fully working sound system. And speaking of sound systems, there's a new PA system in this building. The school was having trouble hearing any announcements and bells. And so because that was a safety issue, we had someone out to look at it who said that the parts were obsolete and unavailable, so we replaced the PA system. Next step is to make sure the volume is right on this side of the building so that central offices can hear it, can hear both bells and announcements. So looking at making sure, this is part of our safety work to ensure that there are working PA systems in all of our buildings. I noted, and my memo is on page 60 of the packet. I did note that one of our strategic plan goals has been to respond to work orders within 48 business hours, and we've just figured out using the platform Operations Hero how we can actually refine the data to look at how many have been closed within 48 hours. And as it turns out, in September, there were 277 work orders opened, and they were all closed within 48 business hours. So that is a reflection on our facilities and grounds teams really working to be as responsive as possible. We hope to keep that up for the rest of the school year. So the other item,
Can I ask you a clarifying question? So is a closed request one that has been fixed?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That is an excellent question. We were responding to them within 100% within 48 hours, but sometimes it was whoa, we'll get back to you on that. But we are now able to say with absolute certainty that 100% of the work orders open in September were closed, as in repaired, within 48 business hours. The main item that I have to bring to you this evening is the renewal of the license for Angela's Daycare, which is using licensed space at Salem High School. So this is an arrangement that began in December 2023. We had a 2-year agreement with 2 optional years to renew, and that comes up November 30th, 2025. So we were working with City Hall to send a renewal letter, but the policy committee, subcommittee of this body had asked to review the leases, licenses, and memoranda of understanding that we have with the different partners who use or occupy space in our buildings. And so I wanted to bring it to the full committee for discussion and possible referral to the facilities and grounds subcommittee or other direction. So I will just note this license does not run on a school year basis. It's November to November. So the committee could change the terms of the time frame. If we change this to sync with the school year, and this daycare operates 12 months a year, so we would have to go out to bid in the spring because we would need to then reopen an RFP. So if we change it to align it to our school or fiscal year, which would extend it through June 30, 2026, we would go out to bid in the spring for the space. So this body can agree to, we send out the renewal for November to November. You can refer it to the facility subcommittee. You can opine upon the time frame, whether you want to align it to the school year or other. And I would just invite, if she's there, Member Miranda, who is the chair of the facility subcommittee, if you wanted to comment before questions. Oh, she's not there. Okay. Well, I did have an email exchange with her, so she was aware that this was on the agenda.
Member Cruz.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to refer this matter to the facility subcommittee. I just named that when Member Cornell and myself were discussing this in the policy subcommittee, this is a part of our broader conversations about how we're using space and partnering with folks. So I do ask that members of the committee consider. We have a couple of key intervals that are coming up, including a presentation on a recommendation around reconfiguration. We have a lot of partners throughout different buildings. I think Angela's has been a great partner, but as a committee, we still haven't really figured out what's the real value of the leases that we're currently offering to folks if they were out in the market. So I just think that I think we can refer it today, but I would just note that we do need to have some longer term conversations about how much of our spaces we're actually looking to lease out to external partners. We started that conversation in policy. I think it makes sense for it to continue in buildings and grounds, but long term for this committee, we're going to have to sort this out because we have, I think, a variety of different approaches to leases within the district, and I think partners view them in particular ways and have assigned value to those different agreements, but there is a lack of consistency and coherence across the different leases that we have. And as we think about what's coming down the pike, a brand new high school, and then we're going to get more folks that are going to want to request space and others who may request long-term leases. I think we're going to want to be very clear and judicious about how we use space, because the priority should be what our students need, what our educators want to plan for our students, et cetera. So that's my major stake in the ground around this. So I think for now, I'm happy to make a referral to that after the discussion, but I just named that I do have general concerns about continuing with these types of leases going forward.
Any other comments?
Move to refer.
Well, when we get to motions and resolutions, we'll take that up. This is just a report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Any further finance and operations reports?
No, thank you.
Any subcommittee reports? Seeing none.
I'm going to let Member Cruz take this because I am stumped on the procedural part.
Okay. So as the superintendent referenced, there are two policies that are required to be updated by the state by November 1st. And normally under a policy in the 6,000s, 6,203, we are required to do 3 readings for policies that need to be changed and amended or introduced. And there's a variety of different things that are in here just with respect to who can initiate policy. The one thing that we don't have in this policy is what happens when there's a policy that needs to be initiated and it's not by the school committee or the superintendent, but it's actually required to be initiated by the state. We don't have an option to fast track. We do have a current fast track option, but that's only for policies that have just been reviewed without substantive changes. So today, what we would have to do in order to be in compliance with state law by November 1st, and to kind of get through these readings and skip them all together, would be we'd have to suspend under policy 6,205. The school committee can suspend policies by a simple majority vote of committee members present at a regular school committee meeting. We have a quorum today, so we can do this. So I'd move to suspend policy 6203 so that we can adopt the recommended policy from the state regarding the middle school expiration, and then additionally the updates required for vocational education enrollment.
Second.
So motion made by Member Cruz to suspend the policy, seconded by Member Cornell. Under discussion, this is on a motion to suspend, not on the policy itself.
That's right.
Seeing no discussion, is Member Manning still online? Okay. We'll proceed to roll call vote. Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Hoffman?
Yes.
Member Manning?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
And now we can move to the adoption of the two policies. So I'd say first we can move to the adoption of the middle school expiration as required under state law.
Second.
Motion to adopt the policy for middle school pathway exploration for CTE regulations. Motion was made by Member Cruz, seconded by Member Cornell. Under discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote. Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Hoffman?
Yes.
Member Manning?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The matter is carries.
And move to adopt the recruitment, admissions, and retention policies for high school CTE programs.
Second.
Motion made by Member Cruz, seconded by Member Cornell. Under discussion? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote. Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Hoffman?
Yes.
Member Manning?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The matter is adopted. Also under motions, we have, do you have anything on this? This is the Hall of Fame.
There's a letter in the packet about the request to serve alcohol at the Salem High School Hall of Fame induction ceremony. This was requested by the Hall of Fame committee, and the letter is in your packet for review, but that would ultimately need to be approved by the school committee and then ultimately, I think, by the city council, right? For an alcohol license, or no, is that how it works?
The licensing board.
Sorry, the licensing board. I don't request that often, but, so I'll put it, they wanted it to be put forward to the committee for review.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Member Cornell, seconded by Member Cruz. Under discussion, I have a question. I guess, do we have an existing policy around service of alcohol?
We do not. I mean, other than you can't have, students can't have alcohol on school grounds but we do not have a policy that I could find.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none.
Sorry,
Oh, yep, Member Campbell.
I just want to make sure, is there any precedent for it having been approved or denied? But I don't recall any motion like this coming before.
Not that I'm aware of. I defer to the superintendent.
It's before my time. My understanding is that one time they did have events at the Salem High School where they did serve alcohol, not in recent memory, and the Hall of Fame has not had their more recent events at the high school. They're asking to have it at the field house because it's a bigger space. That seems reasonable to me. I think what's up for consideration is whether alcohol is served at the event. But I believe that my understanding in asking the questions is in the past there have been events, as long as there's been permission and it's been outside of school hours.
All right. Roll call vote. Member Hoffman? Oh,
No,
Member Manning? Did you have a question?
I don't have any memory of this either, of it being done.
What?
And I'd really be opposed, I think, that it be done. I don't want to break the chain. But I suppose if they have it, then they're going to get it. But I'd be against it.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Can I just add, I just did hear, Principal Burns did remind me that in 2017, there was a reunion in the auditorium where they did serve alcohol. So they must have come to the committee at that time to get permission to serve alcohol. Or somebody must have.
I don't remember that.
Member Cruz?
I wasn't on the committee at that time. I just named that there are other public buildings where school districts have approved this. So, our friends at not Northern Essex, Essex Tech, as an example, they serve at some of their events. They get the same permissions from the town and from their board, so it's not something that doesn't happen. I don't remember it happening during my time as a committee. I'm willing to, support the athletics committee and moving forward to the licensing board and just making sure that they follow, with fidelity, all appropriate controls and making sure that, again, there's no, if they're working with a vendor, that those folks are tip certified, that there's no over-serving, and that there's, I think, strict enforcement just with respect to number of beverages served. So, that would be my message to the athletics committee and to the folks at the high school, is just ensuring that, again, that they're working with a reputable vendor when they do go out to make this event happen.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Member Hoffman?
Yes.
Member Manning?
No.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
Myself, yes. The matter carries 5-1. A motion that we have the license renewal request for Angela's Preschool and Daycare.
Move to refer this to the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee.
Seconded.
Motion made by Member Cruz to refer to Buildings and Ground, seconded by Member Campbell. A roll call vote on referring the matter to the subcommittee. Member Manning?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Hoffman?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Unanimous, the matter is referred to the subcommittee. Any announcements?
Oh, I'm sweating bullets. You what, Mary?
Nope.
No.
You're still on, you're not on mute, Member Manning. Hot mic. No announcements? Is there another motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Member Campbell, seconded by Member Cruz. Roll call vote. Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Cruz?
Yes.
Member Hoffman?
Yes.
Member Manning?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.